Hey, greetings, YouTube fans and those like myself who, whenever you find an issue that you have a difficult time in resolving, you turn to social media because if you've got that problem, I guarantee you that there's a bunch of people out there that have the same problem. Well, I own a 2012 GMC Acadia Denali that after years of being out there in the sunlight, the headlights started, the housing started fading, the lens faded pretty badly, despite trying to clean them all with all the different things I found that promises that they were going to get your headlights brand new and sparkly, your housing, your lens. None of that seemed to work for me. So I tried with it over the years. But then after a while, one of my headlights, the right one, I believe, the entire housing where the high intensity lighting screws into just got crystallized from the heat, and I couldn't even fit another bulb back in there. So I decided, well, I'm gonna have to change out the entire housing. Now, it was after I started doing my research on changing out the housing, I found out that there was actually something that came out a while back that those who were experiencing the same problem from the overheating or the high intensity lighting, the heat generated by them caused that housing or that socket to crystallize. And there was a period of time that was given that if you had the same problem, you could take it into a dealership and they would replace that headlight housing free of charge. Well, it just so happens that I was just outside of that time frame, so I was not eligible based on the date that was given to be able to do that. So I'm stuck now in trying to replace this headlight housing. So I went to carparts.com and I ordered what I thought would be the replacement for the headlight housing. And because the prices were decent, I ordered two of them, not realizing that the ones that I needed was the ones for high HIDs, what they call it, but it's for that high intensity lighting. What I actually ended up ordering was a halogen replacement. So when it came, I took it to my mechanic to change it out, and he's like, "Nope, this is not the same one. This is not going to work. What you need is the HID one." He said, "I tried, looking around and calling around, and no one seemed to have it. You're probably going to have to go back to the dealership for it." So I started a return on the halogen ones to car parts. But then in the process, I called the dealership and I explained to them what had happened and, how much would it cost to replace the headlight housing for the HIDs. And to my surprise, they said, number one, we don't have any in stock. We don't know when it's going to be available again. But when it does become available, if it's available, it's going to cost you $995 per housing. And remember, both of my headlight housing was hazed over and I was going to replace them both. And I'm like, heck no, I'm not paying $2,000 to change out both my headlight housings. And plus, it wasn't even available through them. So I called back car parts to see if they had an aftermarket. No, 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 we don't carry it. All we have are the halogen ones. So I said, okay, well, let me see if there's some way to adapt it back from HID to halogen. And I looked for a bunch of, through a bunch of videos and articles, and some people had said they did the conversion and they, tried to say what the wiring diagram was. And, I'm not an electrician, but I do understand the electrical circuit. And some of the languages was just pretty hazy. And some of the videos, for the average person, it's like that Charlie Brown character, wah, 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 wah. That's all I was hearing, some of these explanations. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and see if I can walk through this and figure out how to convert this back to halogen and not have to spend $1,000 a piece on a headlight housing. So I'm going to show you what I did. and where I am in my journey to try to replace my headlights and the headlight housing on my 2012 GMC Acadia. So now the challenge that I face is that if you look at the wiring and the connector that came with this halogen replacement, it's a 5 wire, 5 connector, or 5 pin connector, versus what was on my vehicle, which is I believe it's 6 connectors. And I have a video that my mechanic had sent me, so I'm going to include it in this video to show you the difference between the connectors. And so I tried to find if there is a pigtail out there that I can connect directly to this and be able to splice in the one from my vehicle and plug it directly into this connector. But I could not find a decent pigtail that is going to work with this. So the next option would be to cut this completely off, just sever the wires and splice in another type of connector. And there are aftermarket connectors that sold. In fact, I ordered some from Amazon. I'll put the description below. But this is what they look like, which they're watertight, but the color coding is different from the one that's on this replacement housing and the one that came from my vehicle. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to find a way to adapt this this connector over to this so I can plug the two of them together. So, but first I needed to find out what wires from this connector goes to what bulbs inside of the housing. So I'm going to show you what I came up with to be able to test each of the connectors to see what they do. All right, so I'm going to show you what I did. I went and I bought an adapter. This is a 12 volt or 120 volt AC to 12 volt DC adapter. This one is 10 amps because I figured the headlights are going to probably pull a good amount of amperage, so I didn't want to order some 2 amp adapter, so I ordered one that is 10 amp. And also, the adapter came with what a lot of these adapters come with, which is they call it a tip ring sleeve. Let me show you. Or tip and sleeve. Some have tip ring sleeve. It's this kind of thing that it comes with. But this one was a 90 degree. The one that came had a 90 degree on there. But the tip is positive. When this is what's considered the tip on the inside. The sleeve is what the silver part is negative. So instead of cutting the wires on this to make this this adapter that I made, I just simply stripped the wires. I had an old plug that I cut off, and I used the wiring and I stripped it, stuck the positive one on the inside of the tip, and the negative one I stripped it and wrapped it around here and taped it down pretty good, make sure that they're not shorting out on each other, and created this my own testing pigtail. What I also did was I bought a little switch, an on-off switch. Let me show you. I put a fuse on there just in case I screwed up and crossed wires some kind of way. It would blow the fuse, then burn up the wires or burn out the bulb. And then I put a switch, an on-off, simple on-off switch that I got from AutoZone, which was about $6 or $7 for this switch. And I'll put in the description all the stuff that I used. And then I went ahead and I added these terminal connectors. These are called spade connectors. If you're into electricity or anything at all, you'll be familiar with spade connectors. I got these from Amazon. There's a box of them that comes with a bunch of different ones. I think it was about $9 I paid for all of these, which I said, you know what, I could always use these kind of stuff. I'm always tinkering with electronic stuff. But the ones that I used were these, because they have various sizes, and this was a perfect size to fit onto these terminals on the inside. I don't know how well you can see it on the inside, but those were the perfect sizes to fit on that. So I created a positive and a negative just to be able to test what wires go to what bulb inside of the headlight housing. And really you can kind of see if you take a look on the inside. Let me unscrew this here. Let me get a light to I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see, for instance, this is brown and black, which black is going to be your ground. So every one of these is going to have a black wire. So the brown one, or it looks brown to me anyway, is for the outer light. On this one here, it has a green and black. On I think whatever, there's some other ones in there, but you can see this one has green, brown, it has blue, it has white, and then it has the black. So we know the black is going to be your ground. So each of these other 4 wires is going to go to either your headlights or your turn signal or your marker lights. So it's just finding out which one goes where, because they didn't really send a wiring schematic with this. So I figured, let me just test it on my own. So let me I'm gonna stop the video for a second and show you how I hook up the adapter and how I tested it. All right, so I'm kind of working with one hand here. I don't have a holder for my phone, so but I'm going to show you how I hooked up that adapter, that special adapter I made. So if you look, I have it plugged in to the connector. This will be the black, which goes to the black wire here, and this one here is connected to the brown, which that leads to my switch that I made to turn it on and off, and that's connected to my fuse down there. Okay, so let me see if I can turn this over and show you what happens when I flip the switch. Okay, so when I turn on the switch, it would help if I have the adapter plugged in. Give me 1 second. Let me plug back in the adapter. It should have a blue light showing when the adapter is powered. So let me go ahead and plug it back in. I must have pulled it out when I was messing around with it. Hold on a second. Okay, so you can see the blue light is showing, so that means my adapter has power. Okay, so now let me try this again. Let me go ahead and flip the switch so I can show you what happens. And you can see that light now, that's my headlight. Okay, so I know for a fact that the brown wire is my headlight, the outer headlight. Okay, so I went ahead and I wrote that down on a piece of paper, brown wire headlight, and I went through each one of them to make sure that I know which wire is which, so that when I connect it to my vehicle, I'll know what wires go where, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and I went through each one of them, and what I found out is that let me tell you what each of those wires connect to on that connector. Okay, so as I said, as I went through each one of them, what each represents, each of the colors represent is the brown one is for the headlight. As I mentioned, well, first let me go back. The black one is the ground. Then the brown one is for your headlight. That will be your low beam. Now, the green one is for your headlight also, which would be where the opening here. This is where the green one goes. You can see it's green, which would normally be used for your high beam. Now, someone had said that you can have either a daytime running light in this configuration, or you can have a high beam, but you cannot have both. And so I personally would prefer to have the high beam because I'm not quite sure. I mean, I live in Florida, and they don't require, like some states do, for you to have a daytime running light. But I'm still pondering which one I'm going to use, and I won't be sure until I get to the vehicle. And when my mechanic takes the headlight, the old housing back off, and I kind of see how the wiring that comes from the vehicle is arranged, and so I can decide, okay, do I want it to be for my headlight, my high beam, or do I want it to be a daytime running light? So I haven't decided that yet. But the green one would be for your high beam. The blue wire is for your marker lights, your amber marker lights, and then the white wire would be for your turn signal. And if you can see that this little plug here that's on the side, that has a black and a white wire, and I believe when you take your turn signal out of the other housing for your vehicle, it screws into here, into the socket that's covered by this white tape, and this is supposed to plug directly onto that. So that would take care of your turn signal. So one other thing I'm going to point out, that you have two ways of deciding how you're going to connect this housing to the wiring that comes from the car. As I said earlier, you can either cut all of these wires and splice it directly to the wires that's coming from your car, or what I think I'm going to do, I'm still not quite sure yet, is to let me show you another adaptation I made. Because if at some point you have to change out the headlight assembly again, or if you sell the vehicle and somebody else have to do it down the road, if you've cut all the wires and hardwired them together, then the other person is going to have to cut them again and reconnect them again. So what I did was I took the connector, this waterproof connector that I got from Amazon. Once again, I'll put the description in the chat. But I connected it to 5 of the same connectors that I use on this testing adapter, because there's enough space in there, I believe, to plug all 5 of these directly into here, into each one of these, and then I can hardwire the other end to the corresponding ones coming from my car. And then I could simply just, because this already, as you can see, it has a clip on here that mounts, I don't know, that mounts directly there. So when I put all the wires in, I think I'm gonna just maybe put a small screw and a zip tie to keep the wires secured here so they don't vibrate around and possibly pull off. And this way, if somebody down the road has to change this out again, all they simply have to do is to get the same type of adapter and just connect. Well, the vehicle will already have one like this, and all they simply have to do is unplug all of these, and plug it into the new one. That's just my thought, to make it easier for myself down the road or for somebody else if I ever end up selling the vehicle. All right, I hope this helps some of you who have been trying to figure this out on your own. There's still some more work that I have to do, and that's when my mechanic takes the bumper back off, because to get to the headlight housing, you got to take off the bumper cover and a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't up for the task of doing that. So, when he takes it off, we're going to go ahead and cut the wire that they connect from the car and then test each one. I'll go in, turn on the headlight, turn on the turn signal, turn on the marker lights, and just one by one see which wire is supposed to connect to what light in the housing, and then join and splice in the wires to that new connector based on that. So I still have some work to do, and maybe I'll do a part 2 when I connect it up to the vehicle. One other thing that I would recommend, because this is something that I think I'm going to do, is to change out, while I have all of this out, I ordered the LED bulbs instead of the halogen that comes with this housing. So it's easier to change out the bulbs while it's out like this, and hopefully it'll give me a nice brighter light. And if I get the exact ones that'll fit in this housing, I'm changing out the regular headlight, the high beam, and my car comes with a fog light, so I'm changing all of those to LEDs. And so when I'm done, I'll see what the results look like, and I'll maybe do a video to show that also. All right. Hope this helps. Peace. I forgot to mention, so I'm just adding this to the video, that something that you should be familiar with, and you should have one of these. This is inexpensive. You can get one of these at Harbor Freight for a few bucks. But, it's a voltage tester, but it's also a continuity tester. So when you're putting this stuff together, you want to make sure that you're able, once you do all of this, right, you crimp all of these connectors on, you need to make sure that you have continuity to the other side of the connector. I know if some people may not be familiar with how to do crimps and stuff, but if you're going to attempt this, you should at least know how to crimp on a spade connector, making sure that your wires are actually touching the inside of the insulated part here. Make sure that it's crimped properly onto your wires, so that you're getting a nice connection from one side of this to the other side. Okay, and this meter here allows you to do continuity testing, so that when you have it set to the proper setting and you touch, it should show you that you have continuity when it goes to 0. I have it at 200 ohms, I think it is, or something like that. But it'll show a 1, and when you touch it, it'll go to 0 to let you know that it's a dead short, so that you've got a good connection from one to the other. Okay? All right. But you should have some basic working knowledge of electricity and how to do these kind of connections. Like I said, I'm not an electrician, but some of these things are not that hard to do. All right? All right. Peace.